Okay. So last time we were discussing the PPP protocols, point-to-point protocols. We have seen this data link layer protocols, which is widely used for internet, particularly for when home computers are connected to the internet servers, right? And it is very similar to the HDLC protocol, but slight differences are there that we have seen last times. It is byte-oriented protocols, and we have seen this. If there is also similar frame structure is here, like HDLC, flag, address, control, of course, protocol. One extra subfield is here, payload, FCS flag. These things are there. Here, flag-like pattern is avoided by using escape byte. Earlier HDLC, one bit is extra bit is bit stopped. One bit is stopped, but here is one byte is stopped to avoid these flag-like patterns, right? That may appear in the data field, right? And we have seen these PPP protocols. So it's a data link layer protocol, but it uses three protocols, like the for authentications, establishment of link, and to carry the network layer data. Right, it uses another three protocols, that is LCP, the PAP and CHAP, password authentication protocols, and challenge handshake authentication protocol. These two are actually authentication protocols. It's a authentication protocols. These two are for authentication protocols, AP. So basically three types: 1, 2, 3. Three protocols are being used in PPP also. LCP protocol we have seen last time. LCP protocols, the subfields are there like code, ID, length, informations. Right, 11 types of packets are there, and that can be divided. That is divided into three groups. One group is for configuring the link configurations. Another group, first group is consisting of the 4 packets for link configurations. Second group for consider 2 packets for link terminations, and another 5, total 11 packets are there in LCP. So another 5 packets for link monitoring and debugging. So these things we have seen it, and other subfields also we have seen the ID, length, etc. That we have seen it. The ID means it is for request reply, and length means it is for total length of the LCP packet. And in authentication protocols, it is for validating the identity of the user that wants to access the resources. For that purpose, authentication protocol is used. Here it may be 2 types. One is PAP, another is CHAP, password authentication protocols, another is challenge handshake authentication protocols. In PAP, password authentication protocols, it is based on 2 types. Based on 2 steps. In the first step, the user who wants to access the systems sends the authentication identifications. That means username, password. Right, and the second step, system checks the validity of the identifications and password, and then it can accept or deny the connections. So that is the 2-step process, and we have seen this. There are 3 types of packets are there. Last time I have shown it. Authentication request, consisting of this username, password. Next, it can be acknowledged. There can be positive acknowledgement. So in password authentication protocols, there are 3 types of packets are there. Authentication requests that consists of the username and password, and and also system that is sent by the user, right, and the systems can acknowledge it by sending these authentication acknowledgement frames, or can be negative NAC, negative acknowledgement. So this is the PAP protocols. This is basically 2-step process. the first step, password and username are being sent by the user, and the second step, the system checks the validity of the identity of the user. Okay. Another authentication protocol is here, which is CHAP protocols, challenge handshake authentication protocols. CHAP. So here actually it is three-way process, and three-way protocol, and it provides greater security than the PAP. In this method, password is never sent on lines. That I told you last times. Password is never sent on lines. So what are the three steps here? First step here, you see, the system sends the user a challenge packet. Here, system sends a challenge packet. A challenge packet containing the challenge value, containing a particular challenge value. Maybe a few bytes. Here is a byte-oriented protocol, so a few bytes. These are the first steps. System sends the challenge packet to the user, a challenge packet containing a challenge value. Second step, what the user does, the user then it applies a predetermined functions. Predetermined functions that takes the challenge value that is sent by the systems, challenge value plus and its own password right. So user applies the predetermined functions that that takes this challenge value and the user's own password, and the whole process, it will create a result. Right. This result is then sent. To the systems. After getting this result, this is sent sent to the system through the response packet. Response packet, and this the system, after the system does the same things. It applies these same predetermined functions, to the password of the user and the challenge value. Same predetermined functions to the user password and the challenge value. Which will create some value, right? That will give some result. If the result created now, so the three-way process. So if the result created by the systems matches the result sent by the user, then access is granted. So if the result matches, if the result matches, then access will be granted. Access will be granted. Access will be granted, otherwise it will be denied. So it is more. बॉक्स में देखो, बॉक्स में पैकेट है ना, बॉक्स में पैकेट है, पैकेट का देखो इधर. So access will be granted. So CHAP is more secure than now. I think it's quite clear now. It is more secure than PAP protocol, particularly if the change value is changed frequently. If the challenge value is changed frequently, then it will be more secure than the PAP protocols. Here says say if the intruder learns the challenge value, but the result and the password will be still secret. Even the challenge may learn the result also, but the password will be still secret. Password will be still secret. So that's why it is more secure than the PAP. So if you see this the process, so there is system. You see, this is the systems. You see. This is the user. This is user, and say this is the server. Right, the server. Server. Then you see. First, system will send the challenge packet containing the challenge value. Challenge packet. Next, after getting these ones, challenge value, the systems will create the result by using this challenge value predetermined function and in its own password. So that will be sent in the response packet. So you see, and the system will do the same things. It will use the same predetermined functions, challenge value, and the password of the users, and it will create the result. If the result matches, then access will be granted or it will be denied. So it can be, there can be success or failure. So this is the process of the CHAP authentication protocols. Have you followed? If you don't follow, you can ask. PAP and CHAP protocols. It is more secure than the PAP protocols. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Tell me. Yes, PAP. Clear. Okay. So these two are most important, the components of these PPP protocols. And there is another protocol that is used in PPP, that is NCP, for carrying network clear data. That is NCP, network control protocols. NCP. Network control protocol. You see, it can carry the, the PPP through this protocol can carry the network layer data that will be defined, that can be defined by the internet or OSI or Xerox, unlike these things. There are different protocols defined by, say, internet protocol is here, internet or OSI. In OSI also network layer data is here. This is TCP/IP, OSI or Xerox, like these things. So there are different protocol architectures are there. So in those architectures, PPP can carry the network layer data from the protocols defined by these protocol architectures, and generally for this case, PPP, it defined a specific NCP for each network protocols. NCP, it defines specific network protocols. So for examples, for IPCP, this protocol is used for carrying the IP data. IPCP, IP data packets, right? This IP Internet Protocol Control Protocols, this IPCP. This protocol configures the link. This configures the link. Configures the link to carry the IP packets in the internet, right? And it is the value of the in that case, the value of the protocol field. The protocol field is here. If it is this IPCP protocols, then at that times the protocol field, you have seen this protocol field is here. That times protocol field will be 8021. That is in hexadecimals, right? When IPCP is sent to carry the IP packets. We'll see it, internet protocols. This is for internet, TCP/IP, IPCP. At the end of these courses, we'll see the network protocol architectures are there. That times we'll see the different protocols are there, different layers, different protocols are there. Just like data link layer, we have seen these go back NARQ, etc. Slurry window flow control. These protocols are there. Similarly, network layer, transport layer, there are different protocols are there. So network layer, internet layer, this IPCP protocols, this is used. So IPCP actually this defines 7 types of packets. There are 7 packets are there, and this is actually differentiated. These 7 packets are differentiated through their code values. If the code is this 01, that means it is the configure request. Configure, this is the request packet, configure request, right? If it is X02, then it is configure acknowledgement. Configure ACK. If it is 03, then it is configure negative acknowledgement. Right. If it is 04, then it will be configure reject. Can be, if it is 5, then it is terminate request. Terminate request. And there also can be positive acknowledgement or reject. So 06 will be the terminate acknowledgement. Or it can be reject also, like code reject. So there are this type of packets are there. 7 packets are there in IPCP. So after the link conferencing completed by one of these NCP protocols, the users can exchange data packets from the network layer. After link configurations, the user can exchange data packets from the network layer, and different protocol fields for different network layers. Different protocol fields are there for different network, for different network layers. EPP or the different values you can see. EPP it is carrying data from IP network layers. Then the field value will be if it is from IP layers. IP, there are different layers are there. In case of TCP/IP, there will be one IP layer. This is a network layer, one of the network layer. So IP layer. Then the protocol field will be protocol field. That value will be 0021, right? And if it is connected from OSI network, this is IP layer. Actually, it is TCP/IP layer. In TCP/IP, this is the protocol architecture. Another is OSI. These two we'll see in details. We'll discuss in details. This is 5-layer protocols. This is 7-layer protocols. The OSI is OSI, and if the in OSI, if PPP is carrying data from the OSI network layers, OSI, then the protocol field will be 0023. So different protocol fields are there for different network layers. So this is your the PPP protocols. So we have discussed in details SDLC protocols and PPP protocols. Other protocols are there that you'll see it in the at the last module when we discuss the internet protocols in details. That is under TCP/IP. That it will be more clear. But since we were discussing the data link layer protocols, so these are the actually data link layers protocols. But PPP, it carries it's a though it is a data link layer protocol, but also it uses this type of this MCP. It can carry data from the network layer also through MCP protocols. So have you followed any questions in data link layer protocols or in this chapter? If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll switch to the another modules. If you have any questions, you can ask anybody. Any questions from this protocol? I mean, data link layer protocols. That will be your quiz next week. Next week Thursday. Next week Thursday is fixed. It's about done.
Yes, sir.
Next week Thursday, 10. It is. You are saying that it is 7 o'clock.
Sir, 1 second, sir.
Yes.
Sir, next week Thursday, sir. After 6:10 anytime, sir. After 6:10.
After 6:10. Can we keep it at 6:30? 6:30.
Yes, sir. No problem, sir.
Okay, 6:30. Okay. 6:30. Thursday is fixed. Only time tentatively since you have mentioned 7. That's why I told Tripathi just today after discussions. Just confirm the times. So 6:30 p.m. Comfortable, na? 6:30 p.m. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So Thursday means it is next Thursday. It is 30th September. Okay, 30th September. 30th. 30.
Yes.
Okay. 30th September 6:30. Okay. So, any questions about that? Any doubt regarding these things? NCP or PPP or HDLC? कोई क्वेश्चन है तो पूछो.
नहीं सर,
कोई है कुछ क्वेश्चन है? दूसरा किसी को क्वेश्चन है तो पूछो. Anybody, if you have any questions? कोई किसी का क्वेश्चन है कुछ? कोई एनी क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हो इंटरनेट के बारे में. Internet, you are using internet, but it is not so easy when you see so many protocols are there. In fact, one more paper is here that is optional, computer networking. There actually details of all those things are there. But here in this also you'll get some idea when you discuss the last modules. So far we are discussing mainly the physical layers. Only data link layer we have discussed. But again, we'll discuss next chapter. Next will be the multiplexing, etc. That will actually in the physical layers. So any questions? If you can, still you can ask any questions if you have, or if you don't have, then I'll proceed. Should I proceed then?
Yes, sir.
Next chapter is multiplexings. Here we'll see different types of multiplexings. Also, we'll see using this multiplexing technology how different modems are being developed using these multiplexings. Uh, so what is multiplexing? To some extent, you have seen in digital system designs. That is, in a multiplexer means many inputs will be there and there is single output will be there. This same concept is used in communication also. If you see the telephonic lines, it's a thousands of subscribers are there, and all these say 1,000 speech signals. They are not transmitted this not one by one. It is transmitted actually in a multiplexed forms, right? Using a single line, right? And on the other side, this multiplexer will be connected to the demultiplexer, where it takes these multiplex data streams. Then it will separate the data according to the channels and delivers the data to the appropriate lines. So basically, in multiplexing, several sources, here we consider the data sources. So several sources would be there, data sources would be there, several transmission sources, this here, uh, several transmission several transmission sources are there. They share the large transmission capacity. Actually, many sources are combined, and these combined data streams, it is sent through a high capacity data link. Right. Share larger transmission capacity. One example, just saying, say, optical fiber or coaxial links or microwave links. Here you see they are having huge bandwidth. So optical fiber, huge bandwidth is here of the terahertz. Maximum bandwidth you can have it on optical fiber. There several thousand speech signals, voice signals, or data. Multimedia, voice, video, data, etc. that can be transmitted simultaneously using multiplexing. So the concept of multiplexing, if you just see, so one side there will be a multiplexer to combine the different inputs. So if you see, there are say n inputs will be there in the multiplexers. N inputs are there. N inputs. This is not, and there will be that combined data streams will be sent through a high capacity data links, right? And in the other side, there will be a demultiplexers. That receives these combined data streams, and it separates these the data according to the channels, separates the data according to the channels and delivers them to the appropriate output lines. Right. So there will be in outputs. Right. So and greater the capacity, transmission capacity, this greater the capacity, the less cost per individual voice channel would be there. If you consider voice channels, so less cost would be there. If greater the capacity, less cost would be there. So there is a concept of these multiplexings. There are three types of multiplexings that are considered in communications. One is three types. One is FDM, frequency division multiplexings. This is analog signaling for analog signalings, and is widely used in radio or television set. Radio, televisions. This is widely used, FDMs for analog signalings, and for digital signalings, this is widely used, synchronous TDMs. Synchronous time division multiplexings. Synchronous time division multiplexings. Here it is used, I mean, when you consider the digital signaling, I mean, here digitized voice streams or data streams are multiplexed. So this synchronous TDM is used for multiplexing digitized voice streams and data streams. Voice streams and data streams. There is another type of multiplexing is here that is called statistical TDMs. It is basically time-dimensional multiplexings, but with higher efficiency, or sometimes also it is called asynchronous. Asynchronous TDMs, or sometimes also it is called intelligent TDMs. This is very similar to these synchronous TDMs, but here the drawback, there's some drawback is there in TDMs. Some wastage of resources are there. That can be overcomes in statistical TDMs or intelligent TDMs. So it improves the efficiency, improves the efficiency, of synchronous TDMs. Right. So we'll see it. Actually, here in these two, even in the FDM also, the dedicated sources are there. I mean, for one data source, say here frequency slots are used for different data sources. Here time slots are used for different data sources. One time slot for one data source, but that is dedicated, right? Even that particular source is not transmitting data, still that slot will be fixed. So so that way it is wastage of resources. It is not transmitting data, but still slot is fixed. So that problem is overcome in case of statistical TDMs. That will see it one by one. So let us first focus on these FDMs, frequency division multiplexing. So here the condition is in FDMs. It is possible, this FDM, frequency division multiplexing, it is possible when the bandwidth of the mediums, you see, when bandwidth of the mediums, of the transmission mediums, transmission medium exceeds the bandwidth of the signals that are transmitted. Bandwidth of the signals. Bandwidth of the, say there are different sources are there. So total bandwidth of the signals that must be greater. This transmission bandwidth of the transmission medium must be the total bandwidth of the signals that are to be transmitted. Right. So that is the conditions for the FDMs, right? And so with this technique, a number of signals can be carried simultaneously if each signal is modulated onto a different frequency. Onto a different frequency. So different frequency will be used for different data sources. And so these are different carrier frequencies will be there. Actually, carrier frequency, different frequency, different carrier frequencies will be there. These carrier frequencies should be separated sufficiently, otherwise overlapping would be there. Right? So to avoid crosstalk, etc., those things will be there. So to overlap these ones, these frequencies should be sufficiently separated. Right. You see the examples of it here. You can see it here. So in this way, different channels are there, like these things. So this is the time, and this is the frequency. So here you can see different frequency slots used for different data sources. Right. Like this. So F1, F2, like these things. In this way. So this F1, F2, actually there are the different carrier frequencies. So and each modulated signals that requires modulated signal requires a certain bandwidth center its carrier frequency. Center carrier frequency. So for each data signals, there will be a particular frequency. It will be the carrier frequency will be there. So that carrier frequency, some center frequency will be there, right? So certain bandwidth will be required. So certain bandwidth is allotted to a particular signals, particular data signals, and to prevent the interference, so there can be overlapping. You see, interference. A guard band is used. Guard bands are used. These guard bands are the unused portion of the spectrums, right? To avoid the interference. I'm showing this. You see the diagrams. It will be more clear. So after this, there are separate carrier frequencies will be there. So these frequencies will be combined. Multiplexer, you see, initially there will be multiplexing. These frequencies will be combined to get the composite signals. That composite signals will be the analog signals, right? Sometimes input signals can also be digital signals, though it is analog signalings. But in case it is digital signals, so suppose the data is from computer, so that is digital signals. So that also that can be used for FDM also by passing it through modems. Using modems, that can be converted to analog signals, right? Analog signals. So analog signal, digital signal, both can be used in FDMs. And see, after combinations, then that will be a composite converting signal. Composite signal will be there. And again, it will be shifted to another carrier frequency to transmit the actual FDM signals. You see the diagrams, it will be more clear if you see it. So say there are different, since different frequency, carrier frequencies are there for different signals, so we can the term is used subcarrier. Is the subcarrier frequencies. So you see there are different subcarriers are there for different signals. So this is one subcarrier, say F1 subcarrier for M1. Similarly, there will be another subcarrier will be for M2, F2. This is the subcarrier modulations. First, they will be modulated with this carrier frequency modulations. There are also subcarrier modulations with F2 and M2. In this way, we'll get the MN signals will be there. Let's see, this is subcarrier modulation with frequency Fn. Next, these will be combined, summed up to get the composite signals. See these ones. This one, composite signals. This composite signal is MB. MB. This is the composite signals. Composite signals, and next again it will be shifted to another carrier frequency that will result the FDM signal, FC carrier frequency FC. So that will be transmitted through the mediums. So that is HT. That is actually the FDM signals. FDM, frequency division, multiplexing signals. So this signal again in the receiver, the reverse process will be there. First, MB will be extracted. Next, it will be MB will be passed through several bandpass filters to get the different the signals, and again it will be demodulated to get the original M1 signals. So next time we'll see it. This is the transmitter part. Receiver part you will see it. Next time we'll see the receiver part. Okay. Or multiplexings. If any questions you can ask, otherwise stop it. Though I have not completed FDMs, we'll complete the receiver, then you can ask it. Okay, then next time we'll see it.